After discussing this multi-band vocal technique and actually showing it in a couple videos, I realized I've never actually explained how to do it before. So today, let's talk about multi-band vocal magic. Now this should work on literally any genre, any sort of music, male or female vocals, any type of singer. What I want to do is show you the technique and the mindset and the problem that I'm trying to solve, and then you can apply this to literally any type of music that you work on. Okay, let's jump into Pro Tools and take a look at this technique. Now I think you could use any multi-band compressor for this, really. My current favorite is the FabFilter Multiband, and I'll put a link to it down below where you can check it out and all the other stuff that I use. If you want, those links go to Sweetwater. Sweetwater sponsoring this video. Anytime you need any piece of musical gear, you can jump on any one of my videos, click on any one of the links, purchase anything you need. It goes a long ways to help keep making me, why can't I say that anymore? Keep helping me make videos like this. I can't English. I don't know how to talk anymore. All right, so hit the links in the description, and thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. Let's take a look at my vocal chain. So this is my entire vocal chain in this mix, minus the multi-band compressor that we're gonna set up. So top of the chain, we've got my de-esser. I just went over this in a video where this is the first thing in my chain, and I'll put a link to that video down below as well. Next, we got just a little bit of EQ, high pass, just a little bit cutting out some boxy, muddy stuff, a little bit of bottom end, and a high pass. The next in my chain is the Pro L2, just cutting the peaks off just a little bit. And let me go ahead and show you what that actually looks like how many peaks I'm cutting off, so that way you know. I know myself a little too well to be around her. So I'm really just cutting like I only want to cut like the plosives and the actual peaks off with that plugin. Then next is my hardware chain, which is the Pope Audio Backs 2020 into a Cappy BT50, into a distressor, comes back in. We get a little bit more de-essing. I have this paralleled here, so the wet dry is pulled down. And then we go into the mag, where I'm just giving it a little bit of 650 and a little bit of 40. And then the next slot is where we're gonna put our multi-band, which we're going over in this video. After that, black box, given just a little bit of saturation. So I always put this multi-band after just about everything, pre-saturation, but after just about everything else. So the first thing you wanna do when you pull this up is we're not even gonna listen yet. We're gonna just put 4 bands in, and to do that, you're just gonna click 4 times, like so. Now, the first thing that I always do is I like it, same with the de-esser, fastest attack, fastest release, knee on the hardest. So we change all of these to that. And the reason why I do this is because I want the compressor to be more or less invisible. I don't want to really hear this compressor. This is just, we should talk about that for a second. The point, whenever I come up with techniques like this, I'm trying to solve a specific problem. Now, in this particular instance, the problem that I'm trying to solve is 2 things. One, I want to make the vocal more even. I want the bottom end of the vocal to be pretty consistent throughout the whole vocal take, and the mid-range to be pretty consistent, and the top end to be pretty consistent throughout the entire song. So that's goal number 1. But really, when it comes to a lot of songs, like this one in particular, the vocal in pitch goes a lot higher in the song, in the chorus. So he's singing lower in the verses, higher in the chorus. Let me play that for you real quick here, so that way you can kind of get an idea for it. By the way, this is Clayton Shea, song I'm producing for him. Not out yet, not even done yet. I'll put his info down below. Go check out Clayton if you want to check out more of his music. So this is verse 1. Changed your name and my phone too, don't answer when she... And then on the chorus, a little too well to be around her. So he sings higher in the chorus, and this is very common, but most singers, their tonality changes based on the pitches that they are singing. So the lower they sing, the thicker their voice is. The higher they sing, the thinner their voice is. And so that's the second problem that I'm trying to solve with this technique is how do we make sure that when he's singing lower, we still have clarity and not too much low end, and when he's singing higher, how do we have the same amount of bottom end without it getting too harsh? So 4 bands. Now the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out where these bands need to live. The top band, I want to cover just the sibilants. So let's take a listen to this chorus here.
A little too well to be around her, 'cause I can't.
Okay, so you can literally do this with your eyes. I don't suggest mixing with your eyes very often, but you can do this with your eyes. You can literally see where that sibilance pops up.
A little too well to be around her, 'cause I can't help.
And it's usually somewhere in that like 6K to 7,500 range.
A little too well to be around her.
Yeah, it's right about in this vocal, right about 7,500. And I want this top band only covering that. The next band, I want to only cover the nasaliness of a vocal, the upper mid-range nasal quality of the vocal. So we'll dial that in.
A little too well.
So you can see when he says little, it kind of peaks down here around 2K. So we'll pull this down.
A little too well
right
to
here.
Be around her, 'cause I can't help.
I want that to cover that range. The next range I want to cover the mud of the vocal, the boxiness, which is like, so mud and boxy on most voices is somewhere from like 200 to like 600, sometimes up to 1K. So that's what I want this to cover. So we're gonna pull this down a little bit.
A little too well to be around her, 'cause I can't help.
Yes.
Getting just
so like right there when you can see like there's a bunch of peaks like right in this range.
A little too well to be around her.
That's exactly what we're trying to cover in this one. The low band, we literally just want to cover low end. Now, occasionally this is too wide and I will add a 5th band to cover all of these things. 4 bands is gonna work just fine for this one. So we're gonna pull this down though, because we wanna really cover between like 100 and 200 on this one.
A little too well to be around her, 'cause I can't help.
Perfect, okay. So then you would adjust. Now usually on this, I'm only doing 3 or 4 dB of compression in each band at the peaks. So let's take a listen and adjust our thresholds accordingly. And basically what I want is I want there to be 0 compression happening when it's not necessary in each band. So for instance, when he's singing high and I don't want any of the compression of the low end hitting at all, because I don't want to turn the low end down when he's singing high. We need all that low end when he's singing high. And when he's singing low, I don't want any of the upper mid-range band compressing, because we need all the clarity we can get. We just want to control the low end when he's singing low.
A little too well to be.
So this upper mid-range band is compressing a little too much, so let's turn that threshold up.
A little too well to be around her, 'cause I can't help.
Perfect. Okay, so that is about where we want. Now, if you want more compression, if you want to control those more, but you gotta set your threshold so that way it's only compressing when you want it to compress. In this case, on this upper mid-range band, we only want it to compress when he's singing in the upper registers. But if we want, so you use your threshold to set that. But if we want more dB of gain reduction for that particular point when it's compressing, then you would go to your ratio in this band. So for instance, if we want less, we're gonna pull this way down and you'll see this compress way less.
A little too well to be around her.
If we want more, we increase this threshold a whole bunch and we'll get more compression, but it's still only compressing at the exact same moments as before.
A little too well to be around her.
Now, if we really crank this up 100 to 1, and we pull the range all the way down, we'll see it really compress.
A little too well to be around her.
So you use your threshold to adjust what parts of the vocal get compressed when the compressor kicks in, and you use your ratio to adjust how many dB of gain reduction you'd like when that band is actually compressing. Now, most of the time I'm running like a 4 to 1 kind of thing. Let's actually just back this up. There we go. Most of the time I'm running, because just in the normal kind of range. But occasionally I need to compress something a bit harder, and that's how I do that on each band individually. Let's look at the low band now. For the low band, we want to make sure we're doing this in the verse, because that's when he's singing low.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer when she...
So that's compressing a little too much. Let's raise the threshold.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer...
Yeah, like when he says my phone, that's really what we want this compressor to take care of.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer when she calls.
Yeah, and like when he says calls right there.
And she calls.
See how that gets real peaky right there, right when he says the word calls?
And she calls.
But this upper band isn't compressing at all when he says that. This is the goal. So that's pretty much where we want that.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer when she calls.
And then if we go back to the chorus here, we want this band to be doing kind of less in the chorus.
A little too well to be around her, 'cause I can't help.
Perfect. So it's only compressing when that area, when that frequency range gets kind of peaky. Now the low end, what I'll commonly do is I will set the threshold of the low end, and usually when in the lower registers, so that way it's compressing fairly often.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer when she calls.
And only not compressing when he's singing upper registers. So you can see that this compressor is compressing the whole time, this band is compressing the whole time, except for when he goes up to calls, the word calls.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer when she calls.
Perfect. Now, because we're compressing this band, we're turning the low end down almost all the time, except for when he says the word calls in this instance. So the idea here is we're controlling the low end for the entire vocal, but when he says the word calls, he's going up, which means his voice is getting thinner. We'd like to retain that low end. So what I will commonly do, let's see how many dB of gain reduction we're hitting here.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer when...
So the peaks of this is somewhere about 3 dB. So what I will commonly do then is push this up somewhere in the like 2 to 3 dB range to bring that low end back. So that way we have all of that low end in the word calls, but the same amount of low end in the rest of the vocal. So that way it's just the low end, the thickness of the vocal is much more even throughout.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer when she calls.
See how that low end is very consistent throughout the whole vocal now? I think I want to compress it just a little bit harder.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer when she calls.
That's what we're looking for right there. Super smooth, super even. Okay, so now let's turn the output of this up just a dB and a half maybe to kind of get back like as makeup gain, because we are turning this vocal down with all of these bands of compression. But this will also allow you to get your vocal louder, more close in the mix, because there's less kind of peaks happening. So let's listen to the verse and the chorus without, and listen to how the tonality is different between the verse and the chorus without this, and then we'll listen to both with it.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer when she calls. I know myself a little too well to be around her.
The verse is much thicker sounding than the chorus, and the chorus is much more open sounding. So now let's put it in and listen to both.
Changed your name in my phone to don't answer when she calls. I know myself a little too well to be around her, 'cause I can't help.
So now to me, to my ears, they sound much closer in tonality, in frequency, in overall timbre of the vocal between the verse and the chorus than it did with it off. And that is the goal that I'm trying to solve right there. Don't forget to hit the links in the description below to check out all my gear, or anytime you need to purchase anything. Thank you guys for watching. I hope it helps you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe tab and the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload new videos. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.